Chinese Pub. It's from them. It's one of their original signs. Miller Lake, so there's that. There's my bar area. Got my new sign. I used to appreciate Jay. Sarah, whoever chosen the original chat. Then he had down in the basement where it's going to take whatever you want. So she had her original card.
Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everybody on this beautiful spring evening. All the snow went away, almost. We'll go ahead and get started. Approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Mary, second by Roy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Move on to the next item of business, the approval of the consent calendar, which is the minutes of our last meeting and the payments of bills.
Second.
And motion by Roy, second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That brings us to the next item, a public hearing on the proposed application for community development block grant funding.
We have a whole slew of items here on this. So one of the things that we need to do as part of our application process is to have a public hearing. And we'll go ahead and turn it over to Dustin with Central Minnesota Housing, and he can tell us all about it.
How we doing, everybody?
Good.
I'll hand these out too. This is kind of my notes I'm going to go through, so you can have at least in writing what we got going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So the public hearing that we're doing today is intended to give residents of Staples an opportunity to give their input in identifying any community development or housing needs. So any questions or comments anyone can have at the end when I kind of finish up, so everyone knows what the general application is going to be. To give a little background on Central Minnesota Housing, we operate in 16 counties across Central Minnesota. We've been administering the Small Cities Grant for just over 17 years. We've actually conducted it twice previously in Staples in 2007 and 2013. At this time, I'm currently managing 6 active grants. My name is Dustin Switters. I'm the program manager, and I have been working with CMHP for about a year. But I also have Jason Kresbach, who is our community development director, who's been with the company for 20 years and been tightly involved with small cities. So rest assured, one of us will have an answer for you on everything. We are looking to submit this as the administrators for the city of Staples on the small cities application. So I do have a note there that the resolution is something we're going to do after this public hearing. So this is what this all entails. And then also a note that I put on there, if any council members are interested in applying for the grant, you're asked to refrain from voting on the proposal, on the resolution. That way there's no conflict of interest. Some documented local needs based off of some of the work we've done previously to prepare for the application. We did windshield surveys, which is essentially coming to Staples and grading houses based on need. Roofing, siding, windows, doors, those kind of things. We also did homeowner surveys. We had a very high return, very high demand interest from homeowners in the owner-occupied activity. We basically, not to get too ahead of myself, but have maxed out on the total amount of owner-occupied homes we can do for the project. It was actually recommended to me from DEED that we maybe look into running the program again in Staples when this completes, just based off of the high interest and demand from homeowners. And then we also had some information from commercial owners, commercial property owners, that they have talked to the city. They have some need for rehab that they want as well. And we had a decent return in surveys from those commercial property owners too. So we put together some projects for them with a fair amount of funds. So to give a breakdown on the funding, the total application is going to have 3 separate activities involved with it. It will be owner occupied homes, single family rental homes, and then commercial properties. We're looking at doing 20 owner occupied, 5 single family, and 5 commercial. For the owner occupied and single family, because I'll kind of group them together, the target area for those homes is the city limits. So north side, south side, doesn't matter. And then for both activity types, we're proposing up to $25,000 per home at 100%, 0% deferred forgivable 7-year term. Or excuse me, just the 100% for the owner occupied. Both are $25,000, excuse me. And the single family, we're doing 70% at 0% deferred forgivable, with the remaining 30% of the $25,000 at a 1% installment loan. For commercial, we do something similar. So the target area for that one is a slum and blighted area. In November or December, we had passed a resolution for the slum and blight area. There's a resolution today after this public hearing to adjust that so that it has a full physical technical description of the slum and blight area so that it's very defined in the application itself. In that area, we were looking to do 5 projects, up to $40,000 per project. And then that one is financed 80%, 0% forgivable deferred, and then 20%, 1% 10-year installment loan. Some of the eligible items involved, both for the owner occupied and single family, are roofing, siding, windows, doors, big ticket items that are hard for low and moderate income homeowners to afford. When it comes to commercial, again, we're looking for more external items, siding, windows, roofing, facade, awnings. If it is interior things like electrical, plumbing, HVAC, we require code violations from either the contractor or fire chief or someone like that for that. So in total, the small cities grant full application that we're going to request is $948,750, which also includes the 15% administration cost. To elaborate on that a little bit, Central Minnesota Housing is given 15% of the full grant application for administrating the grant, which comes to a total of $123,750. And then in addition, the city would be responsible for $8,000 in administration costs not covered by the grant, paid in 3 separate payments. It's usually $3,000, $3,000, $2,000. The grant runs 3 years, so these numbers are divided by 3. So the 123 is by 3 and the 8 is by 3 as well. To elaborate some more on some of the other requirements of the public hearing, they do want us to talk about historical buildings and requirements. So any house or commercial property that comes into the program, we do submit that to the State Historical Preservation Office to verify the historical value of the home or property. We do know that the Batcher Block Opera House is on the National Register. So that's one that's already, I've talked to the owner. They are looking at doing a couple of different kinds of grants to try to bring that back to what it was. With us, we might be able to assist in the roofing of it since we tend to lean towards energy efficiency items on buildings. And then we also know that there's a long community history of the Staples Cinema Theater, which hopefully we can help with some of the eligible items on that building as well. The timeline for all of this, the application is due May 1st. That's why we're here today, to get some of these resolutions in place. The awards are usually announced in the fall. I do have subject to change listed on all those because DEED and HUD sometimes are ahead or behind schedule. So typically winners or awards are announced in the fall, so August, September. Then we spend the winter months preparing the grant agreements, the environmental reviews for the city, And then we hold a kickoff meeting in January, February, where that'll be the first opportunity for homeowners and property owners to get an application to apply. And then the deadline for the grant would be September 2026, which is the 3-year service of the grant. If there are still projects ongoing, you can extend beyond that to complete projects. So that's kind of a rough overview of everything. Questions?
Where does this money come from that is going to be awarded to these? Where does the funds originate?
It's the CDBG, the Community Block Grant Program through HUD. Yep, and through HUD, it's then distributed to the state program DEED, which is the Department of Economic Department of Employment and Economic Development. I always mix those two up. And then that's distributed to the city to then distribute funds.
Do you happen to have a map of the slum and blight area?
I do not have it with. I kind of gave a rough description on the form there underneath the commercial rehab.
You have your, this here in front of you.
Yep.
You can draw it out. And it goes up First Street Northeast.
East to west, it's First Street through Sixth Street. And then north-south, it's Third Avenue through Highway 10.
Goes right up here.
Yep.
So it's a very
All the way
concentrated
over here.
area of your
Comes down.
basic
It's
downtown
right in
of
here.
Staples.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
And some of that was determined also based off of interested business owners
Yeah.
in that downtown area that were looking for rehab funds for their properties.
This just seems like such a golden opportunity.
It is. It's a great opportunity, especially for those low and moderate income folks, to get serious work done on their homes. Because, like I say, we try to target big ticket items, roofs, siding, windows, which nowadays we're looking at 10 to 20,000 for any one of those items individually. So if we can help someone do a roof and half of their siding, and they can afford to do half of their siding, and some other cities have done 10% owner funds. We're looking at doing 100% in the owner occupied to try to get that money in the hands of homeowners.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Then does Scott, our building inspector, does he participate in any of this?
They would be involved just basically from a, inspection standpoint, there'd be building permits pulled,
Yeah.
but Central Minnesota Housing.
Especially with commercial projects usually have permits involved, so then the city would be involved in that permit process and inspections with that. We do inspections, but the inspections that CMHP does are more satisfaction and completion of work, where at the end of a project, we go sit down with the homeowner, look at the work that was done, make sure it was done to satisfaction, and then the homeowner actually will sign off on the work to pay the contractor.
You also still do the lead paint and.
Yep, for the single-family homes and owner-occupied, we do lead-based paint assessments on any homes older than 1978. We run that through a third-party company currently, so they would come up and do an inspection of the homes. So that way, when we put together the scope of work of the projects, we focus on health and safety, handicap accessibility, and of course, lead would fall underneath the health and safety items. So those are things that are kind of non-negotiables with homeowners, where if you have lead and you have federal money helping your home, the lead gets addressed, absolutely.
Who exactly sets that boundary for the slum and blighted area?
It was something that I did with Gerald and Melissa, looking at the commercial area that existed, where the interest was, kind of how the scoring went. The windshield survey I had mentioned earlier, we kind of grade businesses and grade homes based on just exterior look. whether they look like, you know, if the siding's peeling, they need siding, something like that. So based on the higher scores of the commercial area, that was kind of what we came up with for a concentrated area. We obviously don't want to make it too large.
Right.
So that's why it's kind of honed in on that, yeah.
Justin, can I add to that?
Yeah.
It's also Deed's recommendation or requirement that we keep it in a very, very small centralized area, so there's greater impact in a focused area, as opposed to doing all businesses within the community. We're not
Yeah.
allowed to.
To add upon that, yeah, they do it a specific area as opposed to like how the other ones are citywide. So that way there's an actual impact, as opposed to doing a business on the east side, a business on, because we're only doing 5 properties, they could be spread all across town, and you would see one got done, but not understand that the program helped, you know, revitalize a part of town.
Right. So just out of curiosity, when might an opportunity like this come again for our community?
Well, like I say, we've ran it here in 2007 and 2013, and then now it's been about 10 years since it's been done. The opportunity is always there. It's just a matter of resident demand, whether, you know, the interest is there, and then working with someone like CMHP that does the administration for it. We typically try to take on 1 to 2 cities every year and keep a minimum of 6 to 8 programs running in cities at the same time. So.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, because there are many more properties and areas in our community that can really benefit outside of that small designated area.
Yeah, well, and that's only designated, that small designated area is only for commercial.
Only commercial?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
the owner occupied and single family is city limits.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And that is something that has changed within the program and Deeds requirements. They used to have target areas for owner occupied and single family. Now, if it's the city's under 5,000, it can be citywide.
Okay.
So our previous two, and I may not have the order of these right, but we did a owner occupied one. I think that was the 2013 one.
Yep.
Previous to that, back in '07, was the single family rental. And the target area was on the south side of both of those. You know, so before we
right.
realized that it was citywide, we were kind of looking at, okay, do we
Yep.
want to, you know, okay, we did 2 of them down there. Do we want to look at doing some north side stuff? But then when it was citywide, that obviously made that decision a lot easier.
Yes. Yes, because we were originally looking at a neighborhood on the north side and a neighborhood on the south side, and then we were able to expand it to the entire city, which definitely makes it better. Thus also ups the interest in the program from homeowners. So we probably, based off of what we're able to do versus what people wanted, there's 5 times as much interest as we're able to support for the grant itself.
Now, each time we apply for something like this, is it always those 3 kind of occupied spaces, the owner occupied, single family rental and commercial?
There are
There
up to 5. So these are 3. The other 2 would be a multifamily rental, which is like apartment buildings or anything greater than 4 units. And the other one would be duplexes.
Got it.
Duplexes are pretty rare nowadays. Most homeowners don't qualify to have the other half of their house done. And then there is a mixed use, which is a multifamily commercial mixed together, like where you have apartments above a business. We looked at that one. There was not much interest in it from those owners. So we decided to remove it from the application to strengthen the application essentially.
So each time you apply, you can pick and choose which ones you want to.
Yep. And then it's just a matter of making sure that the interest is there and the funding is there, and then, yeah.
There's a public facility component of it too, isn't there?
There is, that one runs separate from CMHP. Like I know, I believe it is the city of Swanville did a public facility, and that's outside of us. So I'm not sure what process it is for that, but it is part of small cities as well. They can do public facility.
Received, I want to say we received 600,000 for our water.
Yeah, water treatment.
04 or something like that. So we've got that angle on the program too. So.
Right.
Awesome.
And we must have had great compliance with the other projects, so that
Yep. They've
that
been successful,
brings
yes.
our name up higher on the list if it wasn't compliant or people didn't get their projects done or
Yes.
pay.
And it looks good in Deed's eyes as well. They're more happy to give funds to a community that has been running the program and successfully running the program. I've definitely seen paperwork on other programs or in cities where they didn't necessarily expend all their funds. So it's harder to maybe get a community like that approved, because then you have to bring more leverage funds to the game and you know, do more interest surveys.
Very good. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you, guys. I'll hang out for the resolutions too if you guys have questions on any of that.
Okay.
So I think if there's no other public comment, we probably want to close the
Close the
public
public
hearing.
hearing.
Yep.
All right. We'll move on then to another item of business, which is to consider the approval of Resolution 1898, approving the application for Community Development Block Grant funding.
Copy of that resolution's in your packet, fairly short and to the point. I'd recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
By Mary, second by Roy. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. We'll move on to consider the approval of a citizen participation plan.
So a copy of that in there, and that is largely addressing the public hearing that just took place. That was noticed in the Staples World and put out there, so that people did have an opportunity to come in and ask questions or voice their opinion on it. So recommend approval of that plan.
So moved.
Second.
By John, second by Blake. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. Brings us to item 7, consider approval of resolution 1899 declaring slum and blight area.
So a copy of the resolution's in there, and Dustin, I don't remember what the timeline was when we talked about this last fall, but. So basically, it better defines that area, Highway 10, First Street, Third Avenue, over to Sixth, and back down to Highway 10. So recommend approval of Resolution 1899.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by John, second by Mary. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approval of resolution 1899. Move on to number 8. We'll consider the second reading and adoption of ordinance 542 regulating the sale of THC products in the city of Staples.
So 2 weeks ago, we gave the ordinance its first reading, and I wanted to talk about this map a little bit primarily with the tobacco, but we sent this out in the packet. We realized earlier today that one of the churches was not on the map here, so I drew it in. My fine artistry, couldn't match the blue, but just to give everybody a visual picture of what that area is. And the way the ordinances are, it's identical language right now for the THC and the tobacco. So I just want everybody to kind of be able to see what that is. That's not exact, that's going from a point on the building of the school or the church building, that type of thing. So it would actually be a little bit broader than that when you go from the walls. So, but THC ordinance, again, same as we had in here 2 weeks ago.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mary, is that you, Blake?
Yep.
Second by Blake. Any discussion at all? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
So that goes in effect as of today, tomorrow?
When it's published. So
Okay.
if we get it in the paper next week, that would be in effect.
So did we get that? Everybody, did you guys get that? All in favor?
I abstain.
Oh, you abstained, okay. All right. Good. Okay. Move on to number 9. Consider second reading and adoption of ordinance 543, amending City Code Article 3, sale of tobacco and tobacco-related devices.
So 543 is in here. Again, this is amending, doing two things to amend the existing tobacco ordinance. One, section 10 that's identified in there is to add some language that BCA requires in order to do background checks. And then the other is that proximity to certain places. So language in there now is basically what this map is, identical to the THC ordinance. So, and I know there's been a couple of questions related to the impact that that'll have, and do we want that same language? So,
I'd like to make a recommendation that we drop, item 11 there, the proximity to certain places, and we leave it where it was currently at. For the tobacco, and tobacco only. Because currently, if I'm right, the ordinance doesn't currently has, anything regarding the proximity to certain places, correct? Okay. Yeah, that's my recommendation, is to take that off of the amendment here.
I don't need a second. I don't need a second.
It won't or will? So he moved with the changes?
well, I don't, was that a motion? I don't, we're maybe doing things a little out of sequence here, having some discussion, ahead of any motion. But, like I say, I had the question asked of me. I wanted to, put it out there just to make sure everybody was totally clear on the impact of that language. That is in here. So it's identical to the THC, so it would be 500 feet from the building walls of schools, churches, daycares, and 500 feet from any park with playground equipment, play apparatus. That's the language that is in this ordinance.
Yep, and I'm recommending that we disregard the proximity to certain places, because I think it would negatively impact our community for future businesses that are ever wanting to come to town, as far as, like I said, strictly tobacco here.
So what do you, he's just making a recommendation?
Well, I guess there's a couple of different ways to approach this. One, if there's people that want all that language, you can make a motion to adopt the ordinance. We can also, as a council, make a recommendation that we kick this, back to the beginning and have a first reading without that proximity to certain places at our next meeting. I will let the council know that we have received another tobacco license application for that location that we were talking about. So, in my mind, that's kind of a totally separate issue. Applications in before this is adopted. But, like I say, the question was brought up to me. I want to make sure that, that everybody, on the council knows, knows that, that anything in the circle or even a little outside of this circle would not be an eligible location for a business that would have a tobacco license. So that could be a convenience store, it could be a grocery store.
And this is tobacco only. It's not,
Tobacco only. The
not the
THC,
edibles, yeah.
the THC is, I feel strongly that we should have the proximity as far as THC, but for tobacco in general, I don't believe we should have the proximity to certain places on that amendment.
Then they would be able to open up a smoke shop in the old gas station, right? And sell tobacco out of? Just tobacco,
Right.
which was what we were hoping to avoid anyways, right?
Right, well, and that's what the discussion, had been that brought us to where we are tonight is, and that was primarily proximity to school. That's kind of where the discussion was, and then I think there was some confusion about what one we were talking about at the meeting, I guess it'd be a month ago. But, so I guess, the council can have a conversation about, the school piece versus the church, the playground, the daycare thing, is there a difference in people's mind between those four things when it comes to tobacco? Obviously, the school superintendent was here, he feels that there's a big, issue or, perception issue being that close to the school. And that's kind of how we are where we're at.
But that's a moot point with that, with the smoke.
THC is done. Yep, THC is,
Yeah, no, but I just mean that you receiving another license application to the former,
For the city.
if the.
and they will go under the
Under the-
licensing or our guidelines right now.
Yes.
So that's a moot point with the 500 feet to the school.
If the background is cleared and the council grants that tobacco license, it would operate under the existing ordinance that has been in place for, however long.
As long as-
Which has no proximity provisions in it whatsoever.
But tobacco only.
Right.
So it can be a convenience store that sells tobacco.
Well, I think under the tobacco license, you're talking tobacco and tobacco-related products.
I think what she's getting at here is if this application that's currently submitted goes through, will the new current owner be allowed to sell tobacco? Will he be allowed to sell tobacco and THC?
No, no, I understand that.
Tobacco.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Tobacco, cigarettes, cigars, but not any other things.
Okay, so we have
So if you wanna,
we have an
if you
item
wanna do
here.
this, you can, make a motion to accept it and reject it, then it goes back to the normal.
We could,
Then we go back to the drawing boards and wanna,
No, it just goes back to the
to
regular,
what's current.
the original.
so we have a
No
vote
changes.
on this current, we could vote on this
And
current,
reject it.
adoption of this current ordinance and
That
if
would
it
have this-
fails,
Yep.
it would, go.
Yeah, right. If the majority of the council does not want to move forward with the proximity language as provided, basically, it would be a vote against giving it the second reading. If we want to modify that language, same deal, vote down the, do not approve the second reading of the ordinance, kick it back, we come back at the next meeting with the first reading with other proximity language or no proximity language and just the background language. Correct. So,
Melissa, what's your take on it?
So I'm just thinking, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can look at it and say distance from school, you can lessen that distance. You can take out, daycares and parks when it comes to tobacco. really don't want to affect Highway 10 if possible, which I think was, as you guys are looking at the maps and other concerns I'd heard about, you don't want to affect that growth, but if you want to still, keep it out of that distance, again, it may not matter, pending this background check they got based on the previous conversations, but it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. You can say 200 feet from a school building or an occupied school building, or whatever it might be that you would want to change it to. So if there's uncomfortable with leaving all language out, you can certainly modify it to be something that's not quite as aggressive.
Well, I'm uncomfortable removing all that language because I like going forward to keep a distance from an occupied school building.
And I think that, so if this guy don't get it, he's gonna walk across the parking lot of Burger King and he's gonna grab it there. So you're talking about a block distance to that pack of cigarettes.
But in the future, if there's another person that apply, or business that applies for it, then they would have to go under this language.
Well, yeah, but I don't, I just,
Well,
I just think they're.
But I think, I think some of the concern, as I understand it, that's been expressed is, there's I think there's a difference in people's minds between a convenience store that happens to sell tobacco products and, a smoke shop where that is the only thing that, that they sell. And they sell a lot of other things, tobacco related accessories, I guess you call it. But as I said before, we've got one tobacco license. One kind of tobacco license, and that runs the whole gamut of tobacco and tobacco-related products.
I can see there being a concern if you're going down 4th Street and you think somebody, right after, the school building in between the, district office, and I'm not saying that it's zoned properly or that it's available, but say somebody would have access, that they would build it right on 4th Street directly across from the football field, say, or, open a business there. That's where I can see a proximity. I personally, I don't know that I'm kind of with Mary Jo as far as this existing location, and the concerns on it, but I would be concerned, as well, like with the appearance or whatever. I mean, if it wasn't in our downtown district, it would be a different feel, but if you're talking 4th Street across from the community center and the football field and that whole area, that would definitely be a difficult thing to accept. But with the way the current tobacco license exists, they could do that, assuming it was zoned properly and we didn't have to change zoning for it. So maybe some sort of a distance could be valid. Maybe a school building could be valid that's occupied by students. Something like that. But there's gotta be. I'm sure you guys have already been thinking about it. There's a balance.
We still have the item here that we need to address as far as the second reading of the adoption of the ordinance 543, so we need to vote on that.
Or we could table it.
Or we could table it, yeah. We need some sort of action on it, though.
Is it common in other towns to have a distance from, in proximity? That is commonplace?
Yeah, I guess I couldn't say if the majority do or don't,
but didn't you also say at one meeting that there could be 2 different types of tobacco ordinances?
Well, there's, I
Like
scrolled
one for the
to-
convenience stores, and then,
Coon Rapids, one where it's a accessory sale, an accessory product they sell, and that, the examples of that would be the convenience stores, the grocery stores, and then, the smoke shop, the tobacco only. But, we would have to kind of revamp, the whole ordinance to do that, which, we certainly can. I never even knew that was an option until I stumbled onto that one here a couple of weeks ago. So, and obviously with the school district and, concerns that have been expressed, I totally get that. I understand the message on that. And if you were to leave the proximity at a distance from the schools, but eliminate, the other things, the impact that has on, the ability for, future commercial development that may have tobacco kind of as that, accessory sale, certainly leaves that more open, if you went that direction, as opposed to the daycares, the, parks and churches.
That's what you're recommending, aren't you, Blake? Essentially?
Initially, I was recommending to drop the proximity to all certain places, but
Oh.
I think the route that I'm kind of more leaning towards now is sticking with, as far as private and public schools, if we want to set a number at that, we can, if everybody agrees on it. Or don't,
I would say
then-
200 feet from an occupied
Yeah,
public or private school.
right.
There's a little buffer. It's kind of the best of both worlds. You're not gonna make everybody happy, but it's about as close
beginning.
to as that as you can get, I think.
Just ready to vote on that now?
So
I
we
take a motion?
we can't vote on.
Yeah, basically, we would need to vote down not approve the second reading and, if there's consensus to, come back with the first reading with a certain distance, whether it's 200, 300, 500 from public or private schools.
occupied public and private.
Talk about it, and then we'll have it at the next meeting, first reading. But, if,
Drop this one. Come back with,
What exactly do we,
Need
I'm
a
not sure
second.
what we do on this if we're not going to move forward with a second reading. If we vote it, we don't table it because we're gonna come back
We
with a
have
whole
to-
different
We're
ordinance.
amendment, is essentially what we're doing here, right?
well, but we can't amend the second reading of an ordinance. We have to give the ordinance its first reading. Now, you could probably table it indefinitely with the recommendation to bring back new first reading, new ordinance to give a first reading to at the next meeting. And it just basically goes away.
So can you entertain a motion? Table?
Yep, yeah. Mayor Joe made the motion.
Okay, Mary Jo, motion to table.
To table or to,
well, I don't know, Gerald knows.
You could,
Simplest way to do this.
yeah, I would say, if you want it to go away, make a motion, to not give ordinance 543 a second reading.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mary Jo,
second,
second by Mary. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion?
aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Now you need to discuss,
Yeah.
now you need to discuss what you want in this.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what I heard, you tell me where I'm wrong. Public and private schools, occupied buildings of those school, school properties. Student occupied or occupied? District office isn't student occupied. Elementary school is student occupied. Sourcewell's a school district technically,
I would say
not student occupied.
Student occupied.
I would say student
Okay,
occupied.
student occupied.
Did we decide on the distance?
How many feet?
200.
200, 200, 200, 200, 200,
Sounds like an
You're
auction.
gonna have it right across. the
Durham has
football
300,
field. That'd be right across from the football field then.
What do you think?
200 feet across the football field, right? From the building, because you're talking about building.
To put it in perspective, from a distance, most of our city blocks are 300 feet square.
So you would allow them to build on the east side of Fourth.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's,
Where that,
With
that
200
salon
feet,
is
you
at,
would
you
be
could put it where that salon is at.
allowing them to build on the east side of Fourth Street with 200 feet
I didn't see 200.
At the high school location.
at the high school location.
Well, hold on. Probably not at the high school, at the elementary, yes. High school, there's a full city block taken up by the football field. But yeah, if you're going from the occupied building, they would be able to build on the east side of Fourth. Go up to the elementary, I don't know what that
That would,
distance, it would probably fall within
that-
200,
that would-
that wouldn't be allowed.
that'd be less than 200 feet, but at the high school, it's real close,
Yeah, it's gotta be close.
200 feet.
It goes from the building, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Go from the
as it's drawn up. the
Basically
nearest-
from the
nearest
auditorium.
building wall.
To the east,
Yep.
you wanna be able to be
Should it be then?
2-3 blocks away from that if possible.
Say 300 feet.
I just,
Yep.
my
I
opinion,
think whatever number we come up
I
with.
mean,
we're
we're
gonna
talking
find.
about building right around the school, so.
I think you're looking for some direction here, so you come back with an accurate document. So we need to come,
That's what he's looking
we
for.
need to come up with a distance that
And,
everybody
yeah,
consensus.
For everybody's information, these blue circles are basically a 500-foot radius.
But this
So it's
includes,
500 feet square from the dot.
but this includes churches.
That, yeah, I'm just giving an idea as far as scale.
But you could use the dots to represent the schools.
Yeah, there's school dots on there. Like I say, the circles are, the diameter of that circle is based off where the dot is placed. The actual language has the outside building wall, so it actually would be a little bit bigger than what we have drawn on this map.
So other than this current smoke shop, we haven't had much issue with it though, right? There hasn't been.
Been
So this is the,
coexisted for a lot of
There hasn't
years.
been any feedback that I can remember in my years in the council.
yeah, I don't think we need to change the verbiage much. I think 300 feet from an occupied public or private school.
300.
300.
Do we have a consensus on 300 then? Roy? Okay, 300 it is.
300 feet. Okay,
All right.
we'll redraft the proximity language for the tobacco and bring it back for first reading 2 weeks.
All right, thanks, Joe. All right, that moves us on to committee reports. We'll start with the Staples Economic Development Authority. Melissa?
Great. We met on March 28th. We had a really quick meeting. Most everything has been updates, as opposed to here's new action items, which is good because then I can breathe. But, so we have a new lease in the industrial building. Stacker LLC is going to be leasing the rest of Unit C. We currently are leasing 700 square feet to Acura. So a new business coming to town. Very excited about that. Great guy. They moved to the community. They live, well, kind of the community. They live on the golf course. So They're really excited to get involved in the community, and if you see Norston around, I think you'll be getting to know these guys a lot. So they're going to be a great addition to our community, and their business will offer additional jobs. Their move-in date is April 15th, so you just start seeing action there too at that point. Downtown revitalization, the application for funds has been shared with the 3 groups for the Blandon funds. In addition, they are continuing to meet, developing their plans, and moving forward with that this summer. We should be seeing some action happening, which is pretty exciting. The active transportation application was not funded. We did get word on that. I did have a call, well, start with, it was extremely competitive. There was 9 applications funded throughout the state. And that was out of 81 applications that were submitted. I did have a call with the coordinator, or the project manager for that grant funding. 2 things that I found out about it is they like very direct language, not quite like the Blandon Foundation where they like it a little bit more feelings-based. They're going to want, even though we're talking about people's safety, they want to know, MnDOT language. And so I have to tighten it up a little bit for our next application. They're hoping to get additional funding, assuming that we decide to move forward with it. In addition, I was led or under the impression that it was replacing active transportation infrastructure. It is not, or replacing this Safe Routes to School infrastructure grant. It is not. It is in addition to. And so there is a funding cycle available for the Safe Routes to School, and one of the recommendations that I did receive was to split that. Maybe apply to Safe Routes to School for the very school-based stuff, and they did like a few of the other aspects about our application for some of that more, that downtown connection. So got some good advice and some good feedback, and I'm sure I'll be coming back for another approval to apply, so yay. I really don't like being told no, so it was really hard on me every time that happens. Small cities, I won't go into that. We just talked about it. Really excited about the feedback that we're receiving from the state. And thank you for approving those resolutions this evening. Otherwise, we got an update on the plaza, and just that it's on time. It's moving as fast as they anticipated it to. Still looking for commercial renters. So if you know of anybody, send them their way or my way, and we'll get them connected. Essentia Health and Farmers Union project are moving forward. Farmers Union is anticipating their deliveries coming here soon. They're going to start some groundwork out there. And Essentia, I just had an update on them, but they're still in this developing phase. So otherwise, we ended at 5:23, so just enough time to eat and talk really quick. Any questions?
Thanks, Melissa. We'll move on to the Public Works Commission.
Well, Melissa had a short one and we had a long one. So I'll start from the top. So we have the opportunity to participate in a infrastructure improvement grant. The money comes from the federal acts that were passed last year that pertain to infrastructure. This is a regional grant. We're participating with many utilities in the Dakotas and Minnesota. This is going to be a 50-50 grant. Right now we expect the cost to be $1.8 million, which we'll have to go and get funding, and it will impact our rates. However, this does give us the opportunity to pay for a project that we've had on our engineering reports for several years. This project would allow us to build out our higher voltage from the north substation, to build a loop. We have several circuits that are loaded pretty heavy right now. When we add, if we add electric vehicles, that's going to take a heavy toll. Some of these circuits will not be able to handle it. So this is an important project. So we're not doing something just to do it. And however, we have to add SCADA, which is this stands for Supervisory Control Acquisition, or Supervisory Control Data Acquisition. So that helps us find out if the circuits, if one area is being overloaded, then we can switch, and there'll be switches involved too, so. That's the nuts and bolts of the project. Like I said, the reason is to handle future load growth, and then also to be able to monitor that. So, and then, you know, we do anticipate that we'll have some distributed energy adding on to the system in the future. So again, the SCADA will help with that. So the Utility Commission, or the Public Works Commission, recommended that we move forward with this grant project. And I'm asking the council for a decision on this.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Roy, second by Mary. I just have one question. So this, you had mentioned this is for growth, to allow for and to be able to take in growth within the city and let.
Correct.
So if we didn't do this, it may inhibit our ability to
Well,
with growth?
I guess I'll put it this way. So if we lost the south substation, there's a reason we have two, is that we can drop one, use the other. If we lost the south substation, which is the newer one, we probably don't have enough capacity in the north substation to handle the city in a July afternoon, so to speak.
Okay.
So at certain times, the north substation does not have the capacity to handle that. I'll just get into a little bit of the science of it. So if we have, the lower voltage comes out of the north substation. If we bring the higher voltage out, so it's 4,160 volts is the lower voltage, 12,470 is the higher voltage. If we run that higher voltage out of the north substation, we gain more capacity. So that's the reason that has been on our project list for a long time. And this gives us a chance to get half of that paid for.
Sure, good, thanks.
I thought he was gonna go to the whiteboard.
Yeah. It's 8 o'clock, so.
Well, and it
And
also,
higher voltage allows lower amperage.
Right, yes, that's a,
and it
Ohm's law,
also
if anybody's
has
familiar.
somebody else helping pay for it.
right, yeah.
Now we can do it and half of it paid for.
Yeah, we are, if we continue to grow, so since I got here, our peak was at 5 megawatts. It's at 5.8, which, you know, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's almost an entire megawatt. You know, you're adding almost 20% in 3 years. Now, when we start putting electric cars on the grid, it's gonna go a lot faster. So, I think, you know,
Plus, we have some fairly large projects that aren't even
correct. So we're
on it
adding,
now,
if
so
you
we
think
have
we're.
to plan for that.
Right, we're adding a lot of commercial load this year. We're taking on Voyager. As Melissa mentioned, Lakewood is gonna be done, the meat processing, Farmers Union, the Essentia Clinic. So we are growing, our load is growing, and this gives us a chance to grow with it at half the cost.
Makes sense, thanks.
And I think that is the big carrot out there, because we can not do this and then have to do it and pay for the whole project ourselves. And then, you know, have 4% increases.
Yeah. Now, that said, there's no guarantee that we'll get this grant, but we do have a good shot with as many people as we have in it.
All right, we have a motion second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Go get it, Scott.
All right. So the second item is, so Missouri River Energy is incentivizing their members to add diesel generation. This will be enough generation to power most of the city during emergency. Last December, around Christmas time, I think we've talked about the different capacity emergencies that have happened through our transmission operator. So in the December 23rd, when it was real cold, they sent out the emergency alert that asked people to start conserving energy. Anybody that had generation was to kick it on and support the grid. Fossil fuel generation continues to go offline, and renewables don't have the ability to replace it completely. And we don't have the technology for battery storage yet. So Missouri River is incentivizing their members that don't have generation to add it. And then, so then if we had it, we would be called on to support the grid in those emergencies. However, we would also have it if there was an ice storm or something and it knocked down the transmission line that comes into Staples, we have that generation as our own backup as well. What they're going to do is they're going to pay $2 per kilowatt per month for the first 10 years. That'll be a lump sum payment. We don't know how much that will be yet because we haven't priced anything. So what I'm looking for tonight is the council's interest in moving forward with this project, because it'll be a lengthy process when it comes time to that we decide what we're going to add, and there will be a price added to it, you know, then we'll come back. But right now I'm just looking for the council's interest. The commission did recommend that we move forward with this project. And I'm not sure if I gave everybody a good enough explanation of what this is all about, but like I said, they'll pay us a lump sum to add the generation. They'll pay us a monthly sum just for having it. It's called a reserve capacity agreement. So we're some of their reserved capacity because we have it. We'll have to train our staff. We'll have to add an on-call system for them, because that will be part of the requirement that our staff reacts and gets it going on time. But as I said, it'll be a lengthy process. If you guys approve it, I'm going to reach out to Missouri River. I'm going to reach out to our engineers, perhaps start the permitting process, you know, and get prices and things like that. But with as much time as it's going to take, I just want the council's blessing that they are interested in this, and then if we do get everything together, that we're going to approve it.
Move that we move forward on this.
Second. Motion from Roy, second from Blake. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
What's your take on it, Scott? Are you for it?
Yes. Yeah, I think with the uncertainty of the grid, that we're gonna wanna have it. And then the way they pay it out, over time, you know, they're going to pay for it. It's just, it might take, you know, several years, 10 to 20 years, but for the hit we take early, I think we'll pay for it in the future. It's just, without a crystal ball, we just don't know. I think we can say for certain that we're not going to build coal plants anymore. We don't have the technology just yet to get by without them. Nuclear is a long ways away. Battery storage still hasn't got up to you know, it's not there yet to support the entire grid. So yeah, I think we want to move forward with this.
And I think it's kind of a sign of the times when Missouri River, who owns just, you know, generation facilities, is incentivizing the city of Staples to have diesel generators. I'm 100% for this. I don't want the phone calls when people flip the light switch and nothing happens. That's.
Well, and with the recent legislative changes that the state just did too will also have an effect on this.
Yeah, and we're probably not the last state to do that, you know. Okay, next item is just like the council's approval to sign an agreement with Missouri River and WAPA. So this agreement allows Missouri River to manage our renewable energy certificates. They're called RECs. We get about 2.5 megawatt hours from WAPA, which entitles us to 2 RECs. It goes into this digital system. I don't know anything about it. Missouri River will handle it for free. And it just makes sense to me that we move forward with this agreement.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Roy, second by Mary. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
We got the language back for the Verizon water tower agreement. Previously, we had approved the terms of the contract. Now they sent it back to be signed, so I'm just looking for the council's blessing for approval of that contract.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by John. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, so we sent the, what we considered the final check to Magny for the wastewater treatment plant. We left off what we thought were the proper charges for our staff time and then extra engineering time. We, with the check, you know, we sent the message that made it clear that we considered this the last payment. If they cashed it, we were considering this their acceptance. And they did cash it, and we have not heard anything, so we think that this matter is settled.
Good.
Next item is we do have, we've got AEDs now. We have an AED in the building. It's in the break room. The librarians have a key to the break room, and it's right, if you come into the door, it's right there. Fire extinguisher, AED are all right there. In fact, on Friday, the library staff will go through AED training too. We also purchased, or we didn't purchase, we got, the police got a grant. And so we have them in our street shop, which is where the guys meet when they take their breaks, and then also in our bucket trucks, being with the linemen, with the work they do, they're most susceptible to something happening where they would need an AED.
Awesome.
The customer survey that we talked about last month is out. If you haven't done so, please take the survey. It's done digitally. You can use your phone, take a picture of the QR, and it'll take you through a survey. Also encourage the public to take it as well. I guess we want to find out what we do well and what we don't. So a survey will help us do that. And then the last thing is that the Missouri River annual meetings on May 10th and 11th. If anybody's interested in attending, let me know.
All right.
That's all I got.
Thanks, Scott. Move on to open forum. Think anybody have anything for open forum this evening? Now we'll move on to city administrator's report.
Just a few quick items. It apparently is spring because people are wanting sheds and fences and garages, and it's permit season once again here. I'm not sure if the council is aware, Central Lakes College goes through an accreditation process every 10 years, and that process is underway right now. I did go and participate in the community forum over at the Brainerd campus, and it's kind of interesting how they do it. It's people from similar types of colleges from around the country that actually come and do the review. And, so they met with, a variety of people from the public, both from Staples and Brainerd, just to talk about, what CLC does well and how they fit in the communities and kind of what the public perception is. So I'm sure CLC will not have a problem getting their accreditation, and so it was a fun process to participate in. At our next meeting, I'll have a report on airport board, but the airport board did meet last week, and we'll have a engineering architecture agreement with SEH on the table for kind of kicking off the design phase of a 6-unit T-hanger project that we've had in our CIP for quite a while. And just a reminder again, citywide cleanup day, May 19th, 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock. It'll go out in the rumor mill here, and we'll also get it out if we don't already on Facebook. And so hopefully we'll have good weather and people will dig around behind their garages and, back by the alley fence. And
Where's the drop-off location for?
it's up at the street shop, so 12th Street in Michigan. Everybody forms the line on 12th, and it goes through pretty quick.
We're gonna get in trouble if we drop stuff off like a week ahead of time?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Let's see, nothing else is important on my list, so that's all I have.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.